Why does Trump want Greenland and what could it mean for NATO?
I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way.
We choose the Greenland we know today, which is part of the Kingdom of Denmark.
I also want to make it clear that if the United States chooses to attack another NATO country, then everything stops, including NATO.
US President Donald Trump insists his country needs to acquire Greenland for national security reasons and has not ruled out using military force. While a possible purchase has also been suggested, Trump says he plans to take control of the island the easy way or the hard way.
I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way.
His demands have been rejected by Greenland's leaders and by NATO member Denmark, of which the island is a semi-autonomous territory. United States President Donald Trump has pledged a series of increasing tariffs on several European allies for their opposition to US control of Greenland, as he escalates his campaign to acquire the self-governing territory of Denmark.
And I may do that for Greenland too. I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security. So I may do that. I'll give you a little, I'll take you out of that. In fact, that'll end up being the story. But actually, this is a much bigger story because we're reducing healthcare by numbers that you haven't seen.
Where is Greenland and why does it matter to Trump? Greenland, the world's largest island, is located in the Arctic at around 836,330 square miles. It is roughly 6 times the size of Germany. It is also the most sparsely populated global territory, with a population of about 56,000 people, mostly indigenous Inuit people. Its location between North America and the Arctic makes it well placed for early warning systems in the event of missile attacks and for monitoring vessels in the region. At the height of the Cold War, the US had plans to station nuclear missiles on the island, but abandoned the project over engineering problems and objections by Denmark. The US has operated Pituffik Space Base, formerly known as Thule Air Base, since World War II. It currently monitors for missiles. About 80% of Greenland is covered by ice, meaning most people live on the southwestern coast around the capital Nuuk. Its economy is mainly based on fishing and it receives large subsidies from the Danish government. In recent years, there has been increased interest in Greenland's natural resources, including rare earth minerals, uranium and iron. It could also have significant oil and gas reserves. These resources may become more accessible as global warming leads to the melting of the ice sheet that covers the island. Valuable mineral resources have been a key focus of Trump elsewhere, including in his dealing with Ukraine. However, the US president has said, "We need Greenland for national security, not minerals." More than once, he has described the threat he receives from rival powers, saying that if we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will take Greenland.
Right now, we are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not. Because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor.
What has Trump said about the US controlling Greenland? Trump ramped up calls to take over Greenland following the recent US military raid on Venezuela, during which its president Nicolas Maduro and his wife were seized and removed to New York.
We choose the Greenland we know today, which is part of the Kingdom of Denmark.
Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen responded by saying, "That's enough now," describing the idea of US control as a fantasy. But Trump and his allies went on to reiterate their threats.
Tiden ikke inde til interne diskussioner og splittelse.
This is not the time for internal discussions and division. This is the time to stand together and build on the community we know and we want.
Vi kender og til det, vi ønsker.
The White House said a number of options were under discussion, including utilizing the US military.
When we own it, we defend it. You don't defend leases the same way. You have to own it.
One of his top aides, Stephen Miller, has said, "Nobody's going to fight the US over the future of Greenland." Secretary of State Marco Rubio reportedly told lawmakers that the American plan is to buy rather than invade the island. A spokesperson for Rubio's State Department added that the emphasis was on building lasting commercial relationships and stressed that the US had common adversaries with Denmark and other members of NATO military alliance. Trump previously made an offer to buy the island in 2019 during his first presidential term, but was told it was not for sale. He revived his interest shortly after returning to the White House in January 2025. Vice President J.D. Vance visited Greenland in March that year and gave a speech accusing Denmark of failing to invest enough to protect the territory.
All of the union votes.
In late 2025, Trump appointed a special envoy to Greenland, Jeff Landry, who has openly spoken about making the island a part of the US. What have Denmark and other NATO allies said about Greenland's future? Greenland does not have its own independent military and is not a member of NATO, but is part of the alliance through Denmark. Trump's stance on the island's future has shocked Copenhagen, which has traditionally enjoyed close relations with Washington. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen warned that any effort to take over Greenland would spell the end of NATO.
I also want to make it clear that if the United States chooses to attack another NATO country, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been provided since the end of the Second World War.
She and her UK counterpart, Sir Keir Starmer, signed a statement alongside the leaders of fellow NATO members France, Germany, Italy, Poland and Spain. It said, "Greenland belongs to its people, and only Denmark and Greenland can decide on matters concerning their relations." On the 14th of January, Vance and Rubio met the Danish and the Greenlandic foreign ministers at the White House for a summit to discuss the future of the territory. Denmark's Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen described the talks as frank but constructive, but warned there was a fundamental disagreement between the two countries. He said the notion of conquering Greenland was totally unacceptable.
It is, of course, very emotional for all of us, and of course particularly for people living up in Greenland, but also for people in Denmark. We have 17,000 Greenlandic people living in Denmark. It sums up to like 1/3 of the Greenlandic population. We have a lot of Danes living in Greenland, more than 1 out of 10, which just emphasize that Denmark and Greenland are, integrated, and it has been that for centuries. And we look at ourselves as U.S. closest allies. I've had this discussion with the president previously. In Afghanistan we had exactly as many casualties as U.S. And I know very well that, the future is not necessarily about the past, but I think it is important also to have the past in mind. And we are eager to fulfill our promises.
Several European countries, including France, Sweden and Germany, have said they will send military personnel to the territory for exercises and security purposes. Why does Denmark control Greenland? Though a part of the continent of North America, Greenland has been controlled by Denmark nearly 1,860 miles away for about 300 years. But the US security interest in Greenland also dates back a long way, and 2 American administrations before Trump made failed efforts to acquire it. The island was governed as a colony until the mid-20th century. For much of this time, it remained isolated and poor.
Paratroopers board C-124.
After Nazi Germany occupied mainland Denmark during World War II, the US invaded the island, establishing military and radio stations. After the war, American forces remained in Greenland. In 1951, a defense agreement with Denmark granted the US a significant role in the defense of the territory. In 1951, a defense agreement with Denmark granted the US a significant role in the defense of the territory, including the right to build and maintain military bases. In 1953, the island was made part of the Kingdom of Denmark and Greenlanders became Danish citizens. In 1979, a referendum on home rule gave Greenland control of most policies within the territory, with Denmark retaining control over foreign affairs and defense. Greenland has a Danish military presence as well as an American one. What do the people of Greenland think about Trump and his threats?
I feel like he should rather focus on his own people and their health care and their living and take care of that rather than try to take over another country. And for now, Denmark, but moving towards independence. I think we have quite a lot to work on, but I think we're heading towards the right direction, and then in the future we can become independent. But I like where we are now with the security we have with Denmark currently. I think that's for Greenland to decide right now, and definitely not America at the moment.
I don't like it, I like this peaceful life in Greenland, I think he's just gonna destroy it if he buys it, or I think the economy will just break if that happens, so just let it be. Denmark is helping us a lot, so I'll stick with Denmark, yeah.
Like it's too complicated, We are not interested in cooperate with kind of like who is opinions, who's changing every 5 minutes, kind of like that.
In response to Trump's threats at the start of 2026, Greenland Prime Minister Nielsen said, "No more pressure, no more insinuations, no more fantasies of annexation. We are open to dialogue, we are open to discussions, but this must happen through the proper channels and with respect for international law." Polling suggests that most Greenlanders back independence from Denmark, but that an overwhelming majority of them also reject the idea of becoming part of the US.